Coming up on Primetime News, 2 more deaths are reported in Korea due to the scorching heat, putting the total death toll at 4 in just 3 days. Energy consumption also peaks. Korea gives out some positive economic figures, but it's not all good news as consumption remains sluggish due to the MERS outbreak. And Beijing beats Almaty in the bid to host the 2022 Winter Olympics, making the Chinese capital the first city to host both the Summer and Winter Olympics. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello and welcome to Primetime News on this Friday, July 31st. I'm Hwang Ji-hye.
And I'm Daniel Choy. Thank you for joining us. Well, here in Korea, we experienced both extremes in terms of weather. After intense showers, scorching heat overwhelms the Korean peninsula, and the last day of July was no exception.
The extreme conditions have claimed 2 more lives today, according to the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The victims were a man and a woman in their 70s who died while working in a field.
And that raises the death toll from heat-related causes to 4 in just 3 days. Let's now connect to our Ji-hye at the Weather Center for more.
Well, higher temperatures have taken over the country, with some regions in the Gyeongsang-do provinces registering mercury levels above a person's body temperature. And Gyeongju was hit the hardest with a record temperature of up to 37.9 degrees Celsius this afternoon. So the Korean peninsula is certainly going through the hottest time of the year, so precautions are absolutely necessary, including drinking plenty of water. Well, that's all for now, but I'll have more on the weather at the end of the newscast.
And as the mercury spikes, more people are powering up their fans and air conditioners to withstand the summer heat.
And as a result, Korea has set a new seasonal record in power usage. Korea Power Exchange said Friday that the country's electricity consumption reached the largest summer peak in history at 76.7 million kilowatts as of Thursday afternoon.
Despite the surge in power demand, the report also showed that Korea still maintained a power reserve of nearly 13 million kilowatts on the same day, meaning there's more than enough power supply remaining for this summer. A power reserve of 4 million kilowatts indicates a stable power capacity level for Korea.
Well, as we reported earlier, the unnatural extreme heat is causing lives here in Korea.
And some experts warn unless we do something to tackle climate change right now, it's going to get much, much worse. We turn to our Son Jung-in for the details.
When strong sunlight beats down on a city, the concentration of asphalt and buildings creates so-called urban heat islands, which can send the mercury through the roof during the hot summer months. A worrying combination of global warming and rapid urbanization in Korea has caused the average number of heat wave days in a year to rise from 11.2 between 1981 and 2005 to 12.7 between 2010 and 2014. On top of this, the number of tropical nights nearly doubled from 5.3 days to 9.7 days over the same period. So what will happen if this trend continues and nothing is done? Weather experts predict that with the continued emission of greenhouse gases, the number of heat wave days in Korea will surge 5-fold to more than 56 days of heat wave a year in the year 2100. Factoring in the aging population, the number of heat-related deaths in Seoul is expected to rise more than 4-fold from 100 during the 1991 to 2012 period to 450 in the 2030s.
There's a growing number of people in Korea that are vulnerable to extreme heat. It's mainly down to a sharp increase in global temperatures, our aging society, and rapid urbanization.
Experts say action has to be taken now to counter the fundamental threat climate change poses to the livelihoods of the people. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Moving on to renewed international efforts to coax North Korea back to talks on its nuclear weapons program. Senior officials from South Korea, the U.S., and Japan met in Tokyo this afternoon. On the back of its recent nuclear deal with Iran, the U.S. hopes Pyongyang can be convinced to return to the negotiating table. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports.
The deputy nuclear envoys of South Korea, the United States, and Japan met for three-way talks in Tokyo on Friday to discuss ways to resume the long-stalled six-party talks aimed at the denuclearization of North Korea. This latest meeting comes amid a flurry of diplomatic activity between all the members of the six-party talks, with the exception of Pyongyang. Kim Gun, South Korea's Director General for North Korean Nuclear Affairs at the Foreign Ministry, joined his Japanese and U.S. counterparts Shizuki Takizaki and Sidney Seiler in Tokyo. Seiler is the U.S. Special Envoy for the six-party talks and arrives at the meeting fresh from separate one-on-one talks with Kim and his Chinese counterpart earlier this week. Seoul and Washington have been stepping up efforts to revive the six-party framework, following the historic nuclear deal the U.S. sealed with Iran this month. There had been increased optimism North Korea could be tempted to follow in Tehran's footsteps. But the regime has vocally rebuffed efforts for talks on its nuclear program over the past couple weeks. Following his meeting with Kim in Seoul on Monday, Seiler said the two sides would try to apply lessons learned from the Iran deal to bring North Korea back to the negotiating table. Both South Korea and the U.S. believe China, North Korea's closest ally, will put more pressure on the regime to resume talks. The six-party talks that involve the two Koreas, the U.S., China, Japan, and Russia, have been stalled since late 2008. Watchers say Friday's meeting in Tokyo will likely be used as a forum to coordinate the three countries' position on the North Korean nuclear issue before it's discussed at the ASEAN Regional Forum in Malaysia next week. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, one of the closest aides to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un demands loyalty from its war veterans, with speculation the regime's leader is struggling to tighten his grip on the communist state. Some analysts say it represents another one of Kim's efforts to reaffirm internal stability. Our Connie Kim has the details.
North Korea's top official has requested the loyalty of its Korean War veterans in an apparent move to consolidate support for the reclusive regime's leader. The North state-run Korean Central Television said Friday that its leader Kim Jong-un has praised senior soldiers for their efforts in the Korean War at a ceremony held Thursday. Accompanying Kim at the ceremony, the regime's ruling Workers' Party Secretary Choi Ryong-hae called for the veterans' fidelity for the leader until their final moments. Choi also asked the senior veterans to pass on their spirit to the younger generation in order to carry on their legacy. Experts say such move from the top military official is an indication that Kim is still struggling to tighten his grip on the reclusive regime.
Kim Jong-un's leadership succession training period was very short. He is less experienced and less charismatic compared to his late father and grandfather. Kim is trying to win support from its people through various events like this one.
Analysts say that instability in the regime is also reflected in the young North Korean leader's so-called fear politics. There have been recent reports that Kim's reign of terror has even caused some officials to seek escape from the regime. Last May, South Korea's National Intelligence Service said Kim ordered the execution of Defense Minister Daniel Choy, a move which experts say will increase fear of its leader. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Here in South Korea, some positive economic figures were released on this final day of July. Though it raises hopes that Korea is recovering from the recent MERS outbreak, according to our Kwon So-hwa, it might be too early to tell.
Korean manufacturers were more positive in July compared to the month before, when the MERS outbreak and sluggish exports dragged sentiment to a 6-year low. The Bank of Korea said Friday that its business survey index for July rose to 70, 4 points higher than June, and the first on-month rise in 3 months. The forecast for August also stands at 70. The central bank attributes the uptick to Korea's gradual recovery from the MERS outbreak. Nevertheless, the index is still below 100, which indicates pessimists outnumber optimists. What's more, it's also lower than the corresponding figures for April and May, before the health scare swept through the nation. In a different report released by Statistics Korea Friday, the nation's industrial output rebounded for the first time in 4 months in June, as it inched up 0.5%. This is mainly due to greater production in the mining and manufacturing sectors, as well as increased demand for refined petroleum and machinery equipment products.
A high base effect and more operating days contributed to the rebound in those sectors. But the concern lies in the service sector and consumption, which dropped even lower than in the same month last year.
In fact, retail sales plunged by 3.7% from the month before. That's much greater than the 0.8% drop in April last year after the Sewolo ferry accident. That economic indicators in July and August will become the key factors in determining whether Korea is on a clear path towards recovery or if the effects of the MERS outbreak will continue to linger. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
We now turn our focus to the latest drama unfolding in an ugly succession battle at one of Korea's biggest business groups, Lotte. The power plays continue as the founder's two sons jockey for control. The key family members, have gathered to attend a memorial rite for the founder's father, and speculation mounts that the family will meet to address the internal feud. Our Kim Min-ji has this report.
Key family members of Lotte Group are in Seoul to attend a memorial service for the father of the group's 92-year-old founder, Shin Gyuk-ho. Conspicuous by his absence is younger son Shin Dong-bin, who was currently in Japan while his mother arrived on Thursday. With the gathering of key relatives, there's speculation that the family will convene to discuss the ongoing feud. The absence of the younger son, however, is leading to speculation that family members may unite against the younger Shin. This comes amid an ugly battle as the founder's two sons are engaged in a power struggle for the throne. Just days after a failed attempt to remove his younger brother from Lotte Holdings, the group's de facto holding company based in Japan, the elder son Shin Dong-ju on Thursday unveiled a document signed by his father ordering the termination of his younger brother and several other board members. He claimed that another document showed that he was reappointed as the head of the holding company. In January, the elder Shin was stripped of his titles at 3 Lotte affiliates. However, the younger Shin, who heads Lotte Group based in Seoul and was appointed as the head of Lotte Holdings earlier this month, claimed that it was invalid due to failure to complete required processes and also cited his father's poor judgment due to old age. On Tuesday, the younger son also fired his father as chief executive and general chairman, demoting him to the position of honorary president and putting himself at the helm of the retail giant. It remains to be seen who will gain the upper hand in this ongoing dispute. The matter will be voted at a future shareholder meeting, although a date has yet to be confirmed. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
More than 200 South Koreans from all walks of life have arrived in Berlin after an almost 3-week-long train journey across Asia and Europe. During the course of their more than 14,000-kilometer journey, the passengers have been promoting Seoul's so-called Eurasia initiative. Our Han Da-eun has the details.
These members of the Eurasia Express expedition have traveled across 1/3 of the Earth's surface via train, aiming to boost Korea-Eurasia friendship and raise awareness for the need for peace in the region. After 18 days of their historic journey, they arrived in Berlin, their final destination and a symbol of peaceful reunification.
My grandfather is Hwang Ji-hye, who won Korea's first Olympic medal here in Berlin. But sadly, as a Japanese delegate, it's truly meaningful for me to trace his footsteps, marking the 70th anniversary of Korea's independence.
Since embarking on the special journey on July 14th from Seoul, the team has traveled 14,400 kilometers across China, Russia, and Europe, a distance that's 33 times longer than that of Seoul to Busan. Along the way, they held various events designed to bring Korea and Eurasia closer together, events they can cherish for a lifetime. The members organized global festivals at Lake Baikal of Siberia, where many Russians, Eurasians, and other Asians held hands to dance, and also paid tribute to Korean ancestors that sacrificed their lives fighting for the nation's independence in Russia's maritime province. In Moscow, a concert, marking the 25th anniversary of the establishment of Korea-Russia relations, was held, building up the trip's festive mood. Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se, who joined the last leg of the expedition from Poland to Germany, communicated and exchanged views with the members, mostly comprised of college students. The expedition members are set to march the streets of Berlin, hoping for the peaceful reunification of the two Koreas. With a grand finale performance, the friendly expedition for peace will come to a rest. And then, Arirang News.
A Korean-inspired food truck is taking over the taste buds of New Yorkers. Booming business has led to the opening of a permanent location, and the Korean-American owner plans to open at least 8 more restaurants in the Big Apple. Our Hwang Ji-hye reports.
Within minutes of parking up in this office-saturated Manhattan neighborhood, a huge queue forms beside the Gorilla Barbecue food truck.
Bowl with sticky rice and spicy pork.
The mobile restaurant, famous for its Korean-inspired kimchi-flecked burritos and rice bowls, has been one of the top lunch spots for New York's office workers since it opened 5 years ago.
The sauce is really good. They have good chicken, like over rice. It's just really good, tasty. They're only in the area like once a week, so I come here every Monday.
The hip tiger-striped food truck attracts many first-timers as well.
I was just visiting with my daughter, and so I just checked out all the trucks, and this seemed to be more appetizing.
Gorilla has 2 of these trucks rolling on Manhattan every weekday during lunch hour, and each four-wheeler sees about 250 customers per day.
Success on the road led to the opening of a permanent location 8 months ago. Eddie Song, the man behind the booming business, says taking his college friends to Korean restaurants led to the launch of Gorilla Barbecue.
And it was funny how the reason why they didn't love Korean food is because they haven't tried it. So at that point, it was just proof.
Song attributes Gorilla Barbecue's success to the deliciousness of the food that also caters to the taste buds of New Yorkers.
I think we are able to connect with New Yorkers and in general Americans and in general non-Koreans as a whole. Because they say if you make it here, in New York City, you can make it anywhere. So I think we're proving that right now.
Going forward, Gorilla plans to open at least 8 new locations in Manhattan and expand into other cities like Boston and Washington, D.C. But of course, its signature bright orange trucks will continue to roam the streets of the Big Apple. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News, New York.
Summer vacation season is in full swing here in South Korea. To escape the scorching heat, Koreans are flocking to beach resorts and mountains. Our Ji Myung-gil tells us more.
Korea's major beaches are starting to fill up with visitors looking for some rest and relaxation, with the nation's eastern and southern coasts already packed with vacationers who try to escape the blazing heat of the season. But in terms of destinations, lakes and streams continue to be highly sought after alternatives by those who wish to avoid crowded beaches.
I think it's a great place to get some rest. It's very cooling to hear the water flowing.
Breathing fresh air and putting my feet in the cool water. That's all it takes to get rid of the heat.
Camping in caravans is also gaining popularity among families with young children, as it provides the comforts of home.
Since we have children, we need to use electricity and water, which is easy here. And inside the trailer, we can also avoid insects, as the children don't like them.
Hotels are also offering different holiday packages that include not only a variety of foods and drinks, but also cultural events and sports activities. And as August signals the start of the summer holiday season in the country, Korea Expressway Corporation is expecting major interprovincial roads to be heavily congested starting this weekend. In particular, the Gyeongbu Expressway, which connects Seoul to Busan, and the Yeongdong Expressway linking Seoul to Gangwon-do Province will likely experience heavy traffic inflow. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
For top international headlines, we turn to our Lee Sun-ho at the News Center.
Today's stories: Beijing is to host the 2022 Winter Olympics. A Palestinian baby is tragically killed, and Scientists can now create rhino horns.
Well, Sano, let's start with the Olympic host announcement. Ear-piercing screams of triumph must have echoed through the Great Wall.
That's right, Daniel. Well, as you could imagine, it was completely worth the wait for Team Beijing.
Beijing.
Now, after a long bidding process with International Olympic Committee delegates holding a secret ballot in Malaysia, Beijing came out on top to host the 2022 Winter Olympics and Paralympics, beating its rival Almaty. Just before the winner was announced, Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed on what he says would be a fantastic, extraordinary, and excellent event. Over in Beijing, crowds met with the news with loud cheers and waved flags in front of the 2008 Olympic Stadium. The winning of the rights to host the Olympics makes Beijing the first city to host both the Summer and Winter Olympic Games. Now, interestingly, the win also adds to a series of recent Olympic bid victories in East Asia, including Tokyo, Japan, and Pyeongchang, South Korea. Tragedy took place in West Bank as suspected Jewish extremists killed a toddler and injured other family members in a brutal act of arson. The perpetrator set fire to a house in a small village early Friday morning while the family was still sleeping inside. Hebrew graffiti was found on an outside wall which said "Revenge" and "Long live the King and Messiah." Arriving at the scene, the governor of Nablus expressed his disappointment.
It is strange how a group of settlers supported by the soldiers of the Israeli occupation are spreading in all of the cities and the villages of the West Bank, threatening the security of the Palestinian people and killing our babies.
Now, the attack also badly wounded the parents and their 4-year-old son, who had to be transported by helicopter to an Israeli hospital. Israeli Prime Minister's spokesman condemned the crime, saying that this was an act of terrorism. This has been the worst attack by Jewish militants since a Palestinian youth was kidnapped and burned to death a year ago. And in what may be a lifesaver for endangered rhinos, 2 scientists have found a way to create the horns of the majestic animals. The horn, which was synthesized in San Francisco labs, is made up of mainly keratin, a type of protein found in our hair and nails. The researchers are using the latest biotechnology to replicate rhino horns as accurately as possible. Their goal is to create lab-grown horns to target current poachers and deter them from hunting and killing more of the animals. Rhinoceros horns are highly sought after in some Asian regions as a traditional medicinal ingredient, causing the animals to be poached illegally constantly.
So we want to make it such that people may not want to basically go out there and do this particular work anymore because it won't have this very lucrative payday for them.
However, the task won't be easy, as it is not guaranteed whether there will be a market for fake horns. And that does it for your international news at this hour. I'll see you again next week.
It was very hot today, but it didn't compare to the conditions that these parts of the southern regions had to go through today, with heat wave alerts still in place, and it seems like sweltering heat is here to stay at least through the weekend. Daily highs in Seoul will be in the 30s under mostly to partly sunny skies, with a chance of pop-up showers at times, but no isolated rain is expected for other parts of the country. It's just gonna be very hot. Now, taking a closer look at tomorrow's temperatures, a daily high here in Seoul and Busan will top out at 31, while Daegu and Gwangju see a high of 36 and 33. And as for the other regions, it seems like Daejeon and Jeju Island will see a high of 33, while Dokdo peaks at 30. Now, for those of you who can't fall asleep tonight as another tropical night is expected, go out and check out the blue moon, because if you miss it tonight, we'll have to wait for another 2 to 3 years to see it again. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. Thank you so much for staying with us.
We'll see you next week, same time. Have a great weekend and goodbye for now.